We have reached the off season between the 1998 and 1999 seasons on the 40-year sim. I am Nutty Sports Gamer. Let's check out the draft lottery for the 1998 NBA Draft. In this draft, the Grizzlies and the Raptors neither can have the number one pick because of the expansion team rule. Now, this is the last year that this is in effect. So once the 99 draft starts, that goes out the window, and Grizzlies and Raptors are finally able to get the number one pick. But this year, can't be either of those teams. So we'll see how this shakes out. We'll see how it shakes out. Interesting to see the Celtics, Lakers in the top four of the lottery odds. Timberwolves, I think they actually have one pick, maybe two picks. I'm not sure if that one pick is protected or not. I noticed that it said via Utah. I think that one might be protected. We'll find out. So we got Celtics with the 13th pick of this draft. That was originally the Trailblazers pick. And then we get the Sixers with pick number 12. We'll see if they can add a piece to their potentially playoff contending roster with that pick. 11 is going to go to the Jazz. Now this draft pick originally belonged to Orlando, but the Jazz now have it, and we'll see what they do with that. Let's see. 10th pick is going to go to the Hornets. The Hawks, the lucky Hawks, man. The Hawks are now in the top three. These last few drafts, they've been absolutely been hit with the lottery luck. So that's pretty crazy. So Hawks are in the top 10, though. They get the number 10 pick. Clippers with the number 9 pick. Okay. Interesting what they could do with that. We'll find out soon enough. 8th pick is going to belong to the Timberwolves. Now, this is that's the original draft pick. I think they had the 5th odds, didn't they? So they dropped down by 3. I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. Pistons with the number 7 pick. Okay. Very nice. Although they had a bad season, so maybe not that nice. You know, I feel like they also got pushed down a little bit. Jazz keep their pick. That's what I thought. So that pick was protected, and so they get the 6th pick of the draft. And that must have been a top 10 protected pick. I think that's what it was. And it says that the next year's pick is going to go to the Wolves. So we'll see how that works out. Then you got the Celtics landing the 5th pick, and the Lakers are in the top 3. Very interesting. Very interesting. Lakers and Hawks. Raptors, meanwhile, will have the 4th pick. Okay, so Lakers, Hawks, Grizzlies, and we know the Grizzlies can't have the number 1 pick. We know that. So let's see how this shakes out. All right, we got 3 picks left. So pick number 3 is going to belong to the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks. So now it's between the Grizzlies and the Lakers, which would actually, by default, this would go to the Lakers. So let's see how this works out. Number 2 pick will actually go to the Grizzlies, so we don't have to worry about any trade-off here. Okay, that's good. But then that means that the number 1 pick of the 1998 NBA Draft is going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. Magic retires, and they already get the number 1 pick. Are they going to keep that pick? Or is something going to happen to it? Interesting question, Nutty Sports Gamer. I think we're going to find out real soon. There might be a big frickin' trade coming in the 40-year sim. Hold on to your hats. Hold on to your butts. It's going down. Something I didn't think would happen, but when this happened, it felt right. That's what I'll say. It felt right to make the move that's going to happen. It was going to happen eventually, this move. I didn't think it was going to happen during this offseason, but it was eventually going to happen because I wanted to see this pairing eventually. But once the Lakers got the number 1 pick, I mean, there's a very, very. It kind of works out. This. How do I explain this? All right, Shaq is getting traded. Shaq is getting traded to the Lakers for 3 first-round picks, Tony Kukoc, and Elmore Spencer to match some salaries. That is going to be the trade. So the Bucks, at this point, have the number 1 draft pick. But then I was looking, and right now, so here's Shaq. Shaq is now on the Los Angeles Lakers, and we're going to get Shaq and Kobe on the Lakers. But then I decided to trade the number 1 pick to the Grizzlies. So the Bucks are going to get the number 2 pick, and the Grizzlies are going to trade up for the number 1 pick. Why would I do this? You'll see. You'll see. There is someone who I felt like the Bucks could get with the number 2 pick. So why not take advantage of having the number 1 pick? You lose Shaq. Now they have a bunch of assets to work with. The Bucks do. So let's see what the Grizzlies get first. Let's just get to the draft. Vince Carter is going to the Grizzlies, everybody. Vince Carter is going to be in Canada, but not with Toronto, with the Grizzlies instead. And then Dirk Nowitzki is going to the Bucks. So the Bucks go straight from Shaq to Dirk with almost no break in between. And then Paul Pierce to the Hawks for now. That we'll see what happens with that. Mike Bibby to the Raptors. I'm not a big fan of Paul Pierce going to the Hawks, and I'll explain it in a little bit why that is. Bonzi Wells going to the Celtics. Small forward out of Ball State. We got Anton Jameson going to the Jazz. A very nice piece. Finally, the Jazz have something to hang their hat on. Something to kickstart a rebuild with, you know. Timberwolves get Jason Williams. Not the one who shot a guy. This is the guy who has the flashy passes. Larry Hughes to the Clippers. I think that's a very interesting pick for the Clippers. I like that a lot. He's a very solid guard. Rashard Lewis to the Hornets. Another very solid pick. Rashard Lewis is, 18, 19 years old? Coming straight out of high school. So, I mean, the Hornets have been kind of so-so with developing players, but we'll see if they can do something. But Rashard Lewis, I like that pick a lot. Tyrone Nesby to the Sixers. That's kind of with Rafer Alston. He's a guy. Rafe LaFriends. So we got Rafer and Rafe back-to-back. We got Al Harrington. Al Harrington, that's another dude. He was a pretty good player in the 2000s. Ricky Davis. That's what's fun. You know? Like, I was a kid in the 90s. With the 2000s, you see these players get drafted, and it's like, oh, man, Earl Boykins. You know, some of these 2000s, quote-unquote, legends, right? Just guys that you forgot about that played in the 2000s. Robert Traylor, rest in peace, right? He passed away, I think. Michael Dickerson. Who else is in this draft? Miles Simon. He was part of that Arizona championship, NCAA championship team. Corey Benjamin. Who else? Come on, there's somebody else in this draft that's good. Right? Derek Dial. I swear to you. Katina Mobley, that's a very good pick for the Bucks. Michael Doliak, Jelani McCoy. But yeah, Mobley's a good one. Mobley, I don't know how he fell that far, but he goes to the Bucks as well as Dirk. So they really crush it with this draft. Losing Shaq sucks. Ty Lue's going to the Clippers. That is so good. That is too good. Who else? I feel like there's even more. Ruben Patterson. I vaguely remember that name. Corleone Young. Come on. Slava Medvedenko. Ryan Bowen. Nazir Muhammad. How did he fall that far? That's crazy. Anthony Carter. I think that's it. I don't think there's anybody else. Jahidi White. Toby Bailey. Sam Jacobson. That must be it. I don't think there's anybody else. Yeah, okay. Okay, but what a very interesting draft, though. Vince Carter to the Grizzlies. Dirk to the Bucks. We'll see what happens with Paul Pierce. Does he stay in the Hawks? Hawks, Paul Pierce, AI, and Tim Duncan. I don't like that big three. I mean, I don't... I'm afraid when you have a team loaded like that, AI is no longer really AI. It's one thing to have AI and Paul Pierce, or AI and Tim Duncan. Okay, let's get into it. So those are, as you can see, the Grizzlies traded a couple of first round picks, Alvin Robertson, and some second round picks to the Bucks, and the Bucks traded that first round pick and another 98 first round pick to the Grizzlies. That was that trade. And then we have the Timberwolves trading the 99 first round Jazz pick back to the Jazz in exchange for 2 second rounders and a future first round pick. So that was originally the protected 98 pick that the Wolves had, which then became an unprotected 99 first round pick originally. But what I decided to do instead, especially since the Jazz are in a rebuild, was turn that pick into 2 second rounders and a future first, because the trade that originally was between the Timberwolves and the Jazz was a salary dump that involved a future pick, which was the 98 lottery protected pick. And so not every lottery protected pick turned into an unprotected pick the next year, but 2K doesn't let you have nuanced protected picks, right? So if you lottery protect it, 2K just has it unprotected the next year, when in reality there's many different options. Like the pick can become protected for the next 5 years in real life, or turn into 2 seconds. So here I just had a compromise so the Timberwolves still get some value out of that pick. But let us move on from that. The Magic traded 2 first round picks for Tom Gugliotta and Avery Johnson. So the Magic are really trying to build something in Orlando. Antonio Davis and Winston Garland got traded from the Spurs to the Warriors for Doug Christie and 2 second round picks. So interesting, the Spurs be busy. The Spurs are quite busy. I wonder what's going on with them. Wondering why. So they got Doug Christie, and they traded away Tom Gugliotta, Avery Johnson, Winston Garland, Antonio Davis. So the Spurs are up to something, and we'll get to them in a minute. But you also got the Magic, who traded some future picks to get Tom Gugliotta. Might as well see if he can help the Magic, because the Magic is, Eddie Jones, Jamal Mashburn. Who else is on that team? Kurt Thomas, Brian Grant. For some reason, that team just can't quite get it together. But we'll see if they can turn things around, maybe make the playoffs in 1999. But we'll also dive into the roster a little bit deeper later in this video. So here's a big one: Paul Pierce going to the Celtics for Chauncey Billups, Bonzi Wells, and a lottery took the first. So I felt like Billups would be a nice backcourt pairing with AI, and the Hawks get Bonzi Wells as well, and a first round pick out of the deal. And then finally, the Celtics, they've been on this rebuild for so long. So Paul Pierce and Ray Allen being on the same team, that could be interesting. So I'm really interested in seeing how that plays out, because we know how it played out in real life when they were much older. So Clippers traded Dennis Scott to the Cavaliers for a lottery protected first. Cavaliers doing some interesting stuff there. They traded away Eddie Robinson in a salary dump, and they also traded away Mark Price for Matt Maloney, Hubert Davis, and a lottery protected first. So Mark Price is no longer on the Cavs. A lot of stuff happening. A lot of things the wheels are turning. Things are moving. Teams are changing. The Cavaliers, Mark Price is getting pretty old. It's time to find someone else to pair in the backcourt with Reggie Miller. So we'll see. It's not Matt Maloney's not the new starting point guard. I'll show you who their starting point guard ends up being. And here's a big one. Kings traded Charles Barkley to the Rockets for B.J. Armstrong, Tyrone Hill, and 3 second round picks. Barkley, not quite as valuable a player he was in 1995 when he was, or was it 94, when he was traded from the freaking Mavs to the Kings. But B.J. Armstrong, Tyrone Hill, the Kings still are going to be able to build a playoff team with that, and Barkley's getting a bit old. So it was a good time to trade Barkley while he still had some value. And plus the Kings they've been sliding a bit. They've been sliding a little bit, and Barkley wants to go to a potential contender, and the Rockets have Hakeem Olajuwon, and they still got Clyde Drexler, so it's a very old team. And if you know in real life, Barkley was also part of a very old Rockets team that involved Hakeem and I think Scottie Pippen. So it'd be fun to recreate the old Rockets. Travis Best to the Rockets for Randy Livingston, and then the Rockets traded Al Harrington, a few second-round picks for David Wesley and Donald Royal. A.C. Green got traded to the Grizzlies for 2 second-round picks. And Tony McDyess, Matt Bullard, and a lottery took the first, got traded to the Nets for Dino Raja, Charles Smith, and a lottery took the first. So that's an interesting one. Tony McDyess and Tim Duncan, I just feel like, Tim Duncan's a power forward, and it's kind of a weird fit. So Dino Raja might be a more natural fit for Tim Duncan, and then Tony McDyess goes to the Nets, and they have Steve Nash, so maybe that could work out for the Nets as well. So I'm hoping it works out on both sides. I made a mistake, and Steven Jackson became a free agent when he was supposed to be. When he wasn't supposed to be? So I had the Jazz trade Steven Jackson to the Bucks to make up for that mistake. And then Thea Ratliff and Sharon Wright got traded to the Suns for 2 first-round picks, Danny Manning and Scott Pollard. And then the Sixers also traded Eric Snow, Scott Pollard, and a couple first-round picks for Rod Strickland and Purvis Ellison. So the Sixers add some pretty high-profile players to their bench and pick up Danny Manning as well. So that's going to be interesting to see. Sixers are really trying to make a playoff push. The Suns are also trying to get rid of some of their older players who maybe no longer effective. So Brad Daugherty got traded to the Hornets in exchange for some younger players. And some draft picks. So Sixers roster, let's look at it. Nick Van Exel, Kerry Kittles, Glenn Robinson, Vin Baker, Marcus Camby is your starting 5 as of the beginning of the season. Then you have Rod Strickland coming out off the bench for now. We'll see how that works out. Danny Manning also coming off the bench. We'll see how that works out too. Purvis Ellison, Vernon Maxwell, Gerard King. They got a lot of good players, almost too many good players. So, like I said, I mean they're just trying. They want to make the playoffs at all costs. So that's kind of where the Sixers are at right now. Let's make the playoffs. Let's see how this roster shakes out, and if further moves need to be made in order to make a playoff push, so be it. If some bench players emerge as starters, then maybe some starters become trade pieces. So it could be very interesting. The Bucks have Penny Hardaway, Nick Anderson, Tony Kukoc, who's number 77 now because Penny Hardaway is number 7. Then you got Horace Grant, Isaac Austin in place of Shaq. He's not gonna be Shaq 2.0, but hopefully he'll be good enough. Allen Robertson, Brent Barry, Elmer Spencer, and then Dirk Nowitzki is going to be coming off the bench at least in year 1, and then obviously he should be a long-term piece for the Bucks. We also have Coutinho Mobley, who I think should start eventually, but right now he's a 73 overall, so he's kind of an end of bench player to start his career. And Steven Jackson's still on the Bucks as well. I'm looking forward to kind of the next generation of Bucks players. We're seeing a future starting lineup there between Dirk, Steven Jackson, and Coutinho Mobley. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited about 2000's Bucks. They could be a very interesting team. We know Dirk was able to lead the Mavericks to 2 finals, right, and 1 championship in his career. So even though the Bucks lost Shaq, we'll see if Penny and Dirk could work. That might be awkward. Penny, 26 years old. He's not that old. But can he wait for Dirk to develop? We'll see. We'll see if that's something that can be done. Or maybe it'd be smarter to trade Penny down the road. But for now, the plan is to have maybe a season or 2 to see if it makes sense to keep Penny on this team. His contract lasts for a few more seasons than Shaq did. Shaq was going to be a free agent after the 99 season, so it made sense to trade him because he was going to be leaving anyway. The Bulls, so they got Ron Harper, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Stacey King, Jason Williams. Check out who's missing from the roster. No Dennis Rodman. Where did Dennis Rodman go? No longer on the team. And I'm going to announce it here. This is the last dance, guys. 99 season is going to be the last dance. We're going to see if the Bulls can get their 7th ring. But I'm going to pull Jerry Krause, right? Jerry Krause. I'm pulling a Krause, and I'm breaking up the Bulls after this season. It's time to break them up. So no matter what, this is going to be the last season of of the Dynasty Bulls because we have to move on. Cavaliers, Kevin Johnson, Reggie Miller, Dennis Scott, John Williams, Dale Davis, starting five for the Cavaliers. I'm very interested in seeing how this team works out. I think this to me is the best roster the Cavaliers have had, at least on paper. That backcourt, Kevin Johnson and Reggie Miller, should be pretty damn fun to watch. And Dennis Scott shooting threes, Dale Davis and John Williams. That looks shrimp. Nice front court rotation. Let's move on to the Celtics. Khalid Reeves, still the point guard there. Ray Allen, Harold Miner, Lorenzo Charles, and Ronnie Cycli is your starting five. Not great overall, aside from Ray Allen. Allen Henderson off the bench, D. Brown, Doug West. Danny Ainge is back, which is interesting. You got Paul Pierce, who is going to be coming off the bench at least this year as he develops, and then eventually he will pair up with Ray Allen. Then you got Al Harrington, Rafer Alston. The Celtics, interesting things are happening. Interesting things are happening with the Celtics. They're just not quite. What would you say? They're not quite freaking. They're not there yet. They're not a playoff team yet, obviously. I also want to make sure I change some jersey numbers. Danny Ainge should be 44 with the Celtics. Get his old number back since he's coming back to the Celtics before. This is likely going to be his last season in the league, so we'll have Ainge retire as Celtics, where he won a few championships. And he gets to play with this next generation of Celtics players, so that's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. Then you have the Clippers. Not much change here. Terrell Brandon, Jim Jackson, Billy Owens. Well, actually, wait a minute. I think I do swap Billy Owens for Peja Stojakovic. Yes, because he should be starting, not Billy Owens. God damn it. Chris Webber, Vlade Divac are also in the starting five. Billy Owens, Terrence Rencher, Sean Green, Leigh Vaught, and Larry Hughes is on that bench. So I am always having high expectations for the Clippers. I think this roster really should start to take shape soon and become pretty beastly, right? I mean, they're basically the early 2000s Kings in real life. So, I mean, at least that front court is. We'll see if that backcourt can mesh with those guys in a way that that Kings comparison holds true. And here's the Hawks: Chauncey Billups, Allen Iverson, Chris Mullin, still on the team, Tim Duncan, Dino Raja. I do worry that there's too many guys on this team who want to score. It takes away from Allen Iverson doing his thing. And I definitely don't want Allen Iverson to not be a scoring beast like he is in real life. Maybe he won't average 30 a season, but eventually I kind of want to thin the herd. That's why I brought in Bonzi Wells. Eventually I see him starting in place of Chris Mullin, and hopefully his role playing characteristics jives well with Allen Iverson. The Jazz, this is, it's weird. Isaiah Thomas is on the Jazz because he doesn't want to retire. Doesn't really have a place on the Pistons anymore. Eldridge Kazner is the shooting guard. You get Calbert Chaney, Derek Coleman, Lorenzen Wright. They drafted Anton Jameson, but they still got Derek Coleman at power forward, so it's a little awkward. We're going to have to wait it out, and eventually we'll see Anton Jameson in the starting lineup at some point. I would assume maybe not next year. I mean, maybe not until next year, as the Jazz slowly thin the herd and bring in some younger players to play with Anton Jameson and whatnot. So, and they also have Lorenzen Wright, who's a fairly young center. So, yeah, this Jazz team is still, pieces are moving. They're nowhere near done with their rebuild. They're going to be pretty bad this year. And Isaiah Thomas is just kind of there. I don't really want to see Isaiah in a Jazz jersey. I don't want to know what it looks like other than what we're seeing right now. But there really is no place for him, at least from what I can see. I think maybe at some point he'll probably get cut if there's no way to trade him somewhere. But moving on to the Kings: B.J. Armstrong, Jeff Hornacek, Reggie Williams, Tyrone Hill, Arvydas Sabonis. Got Bob Schur coming off the bench, Hank Gathers, Eric Murdoch, Matt Geiger, and Dwayne Shinsius. Not quite the juggernaut as years past, but I still think this is a very Solid group. Should definitely make the playoffs still. Jeff Hornacek is fading fast, though. Reggie Williams is getting old. Everyone's getting old. But Arvydas Sabonis is aging like a fine wine. So I'll be interested to see him like carry the load a little bit. That's kind of what I wanted to see. I brought in some nice role players, but it really is the Arvydas Sabonis show in a way where it really hasn't been his entire career. He's always had, Chris Mullin and Kevin Johnson to kind of help with the scoring. But now Arvydas Sabonis is really going to have to step things up, so that's going to be interesting. Knicks, Mark Jackson, John Starks, Latrell Sprewell, Anthony Mason, Patrick Ewing. Oakley is still there. You got J.R.E. coming off the bench. I would try to find like a nice place for Oakley, like trading him to someone who could really use him. But I kept coming back to like the Knicks could use him. Like he really is best served to come off the Knicks bench at this point. You got Charlie Ward as well on the team. So yeah, I mean maybe eventually there's a time to trade Oakley, but now's not the time. The Knicks are still a successful team with him and whatnot. Lakers, they're back. Kenny the Jet Smith is now the starting point guard for the Lakers, which is funny because he's with Shaq. And you got Kobe, James Worthy, Robert Horry, Rick Fox, Aaron McKee. So yeah, we got 2/3 of inside the NBA in the starting lineup. I probably should have just went all in and added Charles Barkley to this team as well. Don't put it past me. I might want to do that before they all retire. That might happen one day, but not this season. Derek Fisher, I thought he would become the starting point guard this season, but the opportunity to bring in a experienced vet like Kenny the Jet Smith made more sense to me, at least this season. So we'll let Derek Fisher continue to develop and come off the bench until he's ready to actually make that move to the starting lineup. Mavericks, Chris Giles, Joe Dumars, Grant Hill, Larry Johnson, Sean Bradley is your starting five. You have Sam Perkins and Muggsy Bogues coming off the bench. The starting five has been I think that's pretty much what it was last year, maybe even the year before. Sam Perkins is getting quite old. Del Curry is also still here, which means that his sons Steph and Seth Curry have been growing up in Texas all this time. So is that... I've been thinking SMU. I'm thinking I hope I'm able to change what college Steph Curry goes to before when I import the 09 draft class down the road, because I'm thinking like maybe Steph Curry goes to like SMU, not a big Texas school, right? But like the whatever the equivalent of Davidson is. So I don't know if it's SMU. Maybe it's someone even smaller than that, but that's something to look at down the road. Down the road. Nets, Steve Nash, Tessie Ogman, Cedric Ceballos, Antonio McDyess, and then Zydrunas Ilgauskas is now in the starting lineup. Roy Hinson, Matt Butler. The goal was to get the Nets a little bit younger. A team that could really grow with Steve Nash while still having some vets on the squad. Maybe eventually some of them will get moved. I think the Nets might take a step back a little bit as they integrate some of these younger players, but they should still be pretty damn good. It's pretty damn fun to watch anyway. It's about the long run with the Nets. It's about 3 to 4 years from now, not necessarily this year. Nuggets, Mookie Blaylock, Dan Marley, Chris Morris, Leitner, Mutombo, pretty much the same roster as last year. Probably make the playoffs. We'll see. They were in the conference championship last year, conference finals, so maybe they can do that again. Maybe go even further. Pacers, Michael Williams, Mitch Richmond, Michael Finley, Karl Malone, Eric Dampier, Pooh Richardson, Rogers, Grant, Cook. Solid team as always, but they feels like they're fading a little bit. Some guys are getting kind of old, and maybe after this season, it's about time to switch things up. I certainly think we're getting close to that time. Pistons, Lindsey Hunter, Jerry Stackhouse, Brian Russell, Kevin Garnett, now Brad Miller. I didn't mention him before, but he's the rookie that they drafted just earlier. Then you got Jim McIlvaine and Tony Delk coming off the bench. We'll see how this goes. I'm not sure this team is going to be any better than they were last year, despite Kevin Garnett being pretty damn awesome. So if it doesn't work, though, we're going to have to make some changes with the Pistons if things don't work out this year. Rockets, so David Wesley, Clyde Drexler, Roy Marble, Barkley, and Olajuwon. I mean, hell of a front court. Drexler's getting kind of old. David Wesley, we'll see how he jibes with Drexler in the backcourt. Mario Elie, Donald Royal. This team, it's an aging team. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't expect them to. I could see them winning 50 games. I could see them winning like 42 games. It's really. I could see them making the conference finals. I could see them barely missing the playoffs. Like I could see a lot of different things happening with this Rockets squad, which is kind of exciting too. I'm looking forward to seeing this old team go to work. And yeah, I mean it's something that I'm excited about anyway, because I feel like I didn't really appreciate Barkley and Olajuwon in real life, them together. So maybe we can appreciate them and Drexler on the same team for at least this season, maybe another season after that. The Spurs. Okay, let me not talk over this. Tim Hardaway, Doug Christie, Derek McKee, Dennis Rodman, David Robinson, Dennis Rodman, and Derek McKee are on the team. Rodman, multiple Defensive Player of the Years, Doug Christie. It's time for the Spurs to take that next step towards championship contention, and what better way to do it than to add Dennis Rodman and guys like Christie and Derek McKee. We got some two-way players on this team in a big way. I'm excited about this Spurs squad. I'm hoping that they look good on the court. Sam Cassell, Blue Edwards, Sean Elliott, Randy White, Theo Ratliff, Austin Crozier, Tony Daniels, William Bedford, etc. Still a playoff squad, I'd say. I mean, not sexy, but still a playoff squad there. Got the Supersonics. They were just in the finals. You had Abdul Rao, Petrovic, Bowen, Kemp, and Smits. So pretty much the same as last season. And then you got Bonner, Dumas, Corey Alexander, Sean Rooks, Aaron McDaniel. The bench isn't that great, but starting five is I mean, it's been working so far. So why change? Why change it if it works? They got it to the finals with that squad, so we'll see how they look this year. Damon Sotomayor, Vashawn Leonard, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, Eldon Campbell, Olden Polynice, Jay Edwards, Clarence Weatherspoon. I like this team. They have a nice group of guys. I wonder if it's a what's the expression? The sum not being equal to the parts, right? So they have a lot of nice parts, but does this work as a team? Can this team actually work? Apparently, I guess they're supposed to have a new court. Does this court look different than... So NBA 2K changed the court. But I'm not quite sure if there's a noticeable difference. You let me know. I could obviously just check. I could just check on my own time. And you could check too, those of you who are watching this. But apparently the court looks different now, according to 2K. So I wanted to give you a look-see on that. Who else? What are we doing? Okay, Warriors, Jason Kidd, Allen Houston, Isaiah Ryder, Juwan Howard, Antonio Davis, Dana Barros. So yeah, I wanted to pair Juwan Howard. I feel like Juwan Howard's more naturally a power forward, isn't he not? I mean, I look up Basketball Reference and he almost never played center. So I'm hoping that now that he's with an actual center, he gets to play his rightful position at power forward. Hopefully the Warriors can be even better than they've been. Heat, okay, Gary Payton, Steve Smith, Clifford Robinson, P.J. Brown, Alonzo Mourning, Rodney Rogers, Hersey Hawkins. The Heat, they took a bit of a step back last season, but I expect big things as usual because this team has a lot of fun players, a lot of talent. So I could see them making a deep playoff run for sure. The Hornets, we never know with the Hornets. You never know. Michael Adams, Kendall Gill, Glenn Rice, Rasheed Wallace, Brad Doherty, Kevin Duckworth, Eric Snow. Sorry, a lot of good players. Again, like the Trailblazers, I like a lot of these players. Michael Adams is getting quite old at this point, but still a really good point guard in the league. Eric Snow, I see as being the guy to eventually replace Michael Adams, and Rashard Lewis, I see eventually being in the starting lineup a year or two from now. We'll see how the Hornets go, but that's their roster. The Magic, they have new uniforms. Avery Johnson, Eddie Jones, Jamal Mashburn, Tom Gugliotta, Brian Grant, Kurt Thomas off the bench, Terry Porter as well. I like their point guard rotation. Their front court seems pretty nice. Got Sham got is coming off the bench. Scott Burrell. I like these guys. I mean, I guess I like all the players now. I don't. They probably won't make the playoffs. The East is a very strong conference, but fun team. I like the team. Check out the new court, which is very nice. New court, new jerseys. It sucks that they were never really good with the old pinstripe jerseys, but it's time for a new era of Magic basketball, and I'll get into this when we're in the 2000s. But I'm giving this. I have a deadline for the Magic and the Wolves. I'm and speaking of the Wolves, let's look at their roster. You got Kenny Anderson still there, Rex Chapman, Jalen Rose, Antoine Walker, Jermaine O'Neal as your starting five. You got Nate McMillan, who's that? Ricky Berry coming off the bench. Again, I think there's a lot of good players in this roster, but I'm getting sick and tired of Magic and Timberwolves constantly missing the playoffs, and so I mean we'll see how things go this year. But in the past, I've been known to intervene in a big way when I feel like things aren't working continually for teams. You think about the Supersonics when I had them draft Sean Kemp or had them trade for Sean Kemp, and that really helped their squad. I'm sure there's other examples like the Golden State Warriors trading Len Bias when that wasn't working. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to have them do rebuilds again, you know. So I'm hoping that at some point we can beef up these squads in a way where they're actually playoff caliber sooner than later. So that's my hope as we get into the 2000s, because it's kind of, if you think about it, the Hornets too. The Hornets, we need to do something about these expansion teams. It's something that I feel, because so far only the Heat have been good, and I know in real life some of these expansion teams have struggled, right? The Timberwolves, but even the Timberwolves. By now, they had Kevin Garnett in real life. They had Stephon Marbury. They had good teams in the late '90s, early 2000s, and they haven't been able to make playoffs in 2K in 40 years since. So I gotta figure something out there. Raptors: Mark Price, Dale Ellis, Tracy McGrady, Joe Smith, Ben Wallace, Daniel Marshall, Bobby Phills, Howard Williams. Again, Mike Bibby, and the bench guy. So right now, at this point, at least. Gotta love Trace McGrady, Ben Wallace. There's definitely some serious good players, potentially future great players, potential Hall of Famers on this team with McGrady and Ben Wallace. They're still fairly young though, so they're going to need time to grow. We'll see how they do over the course of the season, right? But a big thing for the Raptors, I believe, right? Their uniforms are different. Yes, seeing them. Yes, they're definitely different. So that means we're going to be checking out their court in a few seconds here, and I think this court is pretty damn snazzy. You'll see in just a bit, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some Tracy McGrady. That's for sure. Okay, maybe we see the court later. Okay, just hold on. Stephon Marbury, Vince Carter, Lionel Simmons, Kenny Green, Bryant Reeves, AZ Green, etc., Keith Van Horn, Lon Murray, Tim Thomas. That's the Grizzlies. This team is a really odd group of guys. Stephon Marbury and Vince Carter. It just feels like that would never work. But we'll jump into some games early on in the season before they are firmly out of the playoffs. We'll definitely jump into some games to see some Vince Carter for sure. But yeah, this is the roster. They're not going to be very good, but they got some guys though. They have some guys. This could work eventually. You know, they might have to make some changes down the road, but for now, pretty fun team. Pretty fun team. But let's go back and check out that Raptors core before we wrap things up. This become a fun part of doing these offseason videos, is adding the new courts. Look at this shit. Oh yeah. What is it about it? I mean, the Raptors, like, they're just next level the design. I never really appreciated it at the time, but like, there's something so like cartoonish, but in a good way. Like it's it's basketball. It's a basketball team. Why not go all in and be called the Raptors? Have a raptor dribbling a basketball. Have a really cool design for your court. You don't have to be all serious. Like the Bulls never changing anything, or insert team name here. I don't know. Did we go over the Wizards? Did we go over the Wizards? Oh shit! Did we not look at the Wizards? John Stockton. I'll just tell you right now, nothing's changed with the Wizards. John Stockton, Reggie Lewis, Len Bias, uh, who else? Terry Mills, Luke Longley. That's the Wizards. They haven't changed at all. Just take my word for it. I just realized that. It's because it's W now. They're in the W, and when I was first looking at the rosters, I was in alphabetical order in the standings, but then I changed my approach. I don't know, guys. Let's just call it a night. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and hey, 99 season. Let's get it going. Final season of the 90s. I'm going to repeat this so that people know ahead of time and they're not disappointed. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break after 1999 season. I've been working hard to get to the 90s and get through the 90s, and we're finally almost done. And so I'm kind of shooting for like a October. Okay, I'm shooting for finishing this 99 season at the very end of September, and then I'm thinking like 2 or 3 weeks where I just relax. Maybe I post a recap video in those 3 weeks. But other than that, I think I'm just gonna take a bit of a break and recharge my batteries, and really take time to set up the 2000 rosters because I want to make sure that everything looks good before we get deep to the 2000s. There's some players that aren't regressing the way they should, and other players who aren't progressing the way they should, and I want to address that after this season. So we'll kind of let the rosters play out. There's guys who are, like Barkley, or there's some guys who are obviously should be more broken down. Like Drexler should be done, right? Drexler is way past when he actually retired. Isaiah Thomas as well. So I'll definitely address those things after the 99 season. But for now, I hope you're looking forward to the 99 season. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon.